All right, joining us now, she is, can't believe I'm saying this. This is her seventh season as Iowa head coach. I've known her probably the longest tenured coach that I've known in the sport of softball. I've known her since 2007 when I was a student, and she tolerated talking to me after a softball game, and for whatever reason decided to let me broadcast her games that year, and the rest of those is history. And I speak of course, Iowa head coach Renee Gillispie for our traditional get together. Yeah, we're doing this now on 18, going on 18 years, 19th season here.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and you've been very supportive of everything I've done over the last 19 years.
You do realize I've now outlasted you as the longest softball, UCF softball, and not employee, but person involved in UCF softball. I've now
Yep,
surpassed you.
yep. And that's hard to do. I mean, 18 years at UCF, I mean, that's a really hard time to do. But
Yes, they surprised me with the milestone games, and I'm like, okay, I've been here a while. That was a
yeah.
nice message there. We'll get to a little UCF talk here at the back end because they're celebrating a couple of your teams. But I just want to ask you about how the fall has gone with this group. Obviously, you got a new assist pitching coach, which we'll talk about. But overall, how's the fall gone?
It's going really well. Knowing our weather up here in Iowa, we do a very early fall season. Had a chance to get out end of August, first September, finished up the first weekend in October. We're in our individual time right now, but had a good showing. We have eight pitchers that are fighting for positions. One is kind of rehabbing right now of that eight, and the other seven are doing a really good job of just filling in and getting a lot of innings in for us. But it was a good showing. Felt like we saw a lot of good things, and then of course, as every coach says, we have a lot of other things to work on. So it's been very productive this fall.
It is unique because you're one of the first ones to play fall, get the games done with the fall ball, which is a little different than teams, for example, in the South here in Florida, where they're just kind of getting going and they won't finish till November. How do you kind of what is kind of the schedule when you play such an early fall like you do? You have to because of this weather. What happens after fall for the players? Because it's still a little ways away before the start of the season.
Yeah, it is definitely a little bit different than what that I've been used to. When I was at UCF, it was a lot of individuals going into the middle of October, then going into teamwork, and then kind of finish up with some individual times. So what we do is we basically bring them in as a team right away. We start team practices. We play our eight games in the fall. And it worked out really for us. It's worked out really well because it allows us to allow the kids to get to know each other early on, get that team bonding going very early in our season. And then when we break it down individual, we have a chance of really breaking down those individual skills in October, November, getting them ready for more teamwork in January. And we actually found it is very helpful because now they're not doing their individual work. We're working with them on individual skills, and then they go back to what they're comfortable with in the games. And then you have to come back and kind of work with them again after the season. So we actually found that it's very productive on being able to do it this way of keeping them as a team, getting to know each other, and then kind of breaking them down and getting more individual work towards the end of the fall season.
Obviously, your coaching tree got a boost with Mandy taking the head coaching job at Miami of Ohio. So another one on your list of many that have gone on to become head coaches add on the list. So you had to get a new pitching coach, and you bring in Carl over, who was at Ole Miss a year ago. Just talk about first Mandy becoming a head coach at Miami, and then obviously bringing in Carl.
Yeah, we're so excited about Mandy. We knew from the day we hired her that we were looking at her as being a head coach down the road. She really wanted that, and getting that opportunity so early on was perfect for her. And my University of Ohio, Miami of Ohio. I mean, they do such a great job of adding. Penn State coach came from there. Ohio State now, the new Ohio State coach came from there. So Mandy's going to have a great opportunity as a stepping stone to be able to improve that program at Miami, and then down the road being able to look at even moving up in the ranks. But very excited for her. She's got a great team this year, and I think they're going to have a lot of success this season.
Last year, you had a lot of young freshmen that had to contribute right away. You're a very young team, and as a result, you're going to take sometimes some highs and lows as a result from that. How have you seen those young freshmen that are now sophomores this year grow? Have you seen them grow from the fall here based on that experience they took from last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see our starting middle infielder was all freshmen last year, and for them to have that experience of being in the Big Ten and playing up against such, top competition their very first year, you're really seeing them build on that a lot with their confidence, knowing that they're capable of being able to compete against anybody. I think with, Sujin that was at shortstop and Jenna Young that was at second base. The two of them really locked down that position. And losing Sammy at first base, we now have one of the freshmen that played, but Devin's been playing a lot. Bowman's been playing a lot at first base and seeing some great things from her. She played a little bit at third base last year, a little bit of outfield, kind of moved around the field quite a bit, but she's kind of locking down that first base position right now for us. And then, of course, Avery is doing a great job. Another freshman coming in is kind of working between first and third, but Avery's doing a great job as a sophomore, also being able to kind of lock down that third base position. But yeah, still very young. Excited about what they're going to bring this year. Having that experience under the belt it'll be really fun to watch this year for them.
These last two freshman classes have been highly touted. I think I think this year's class was ranked, depending on the services you look at that follow recruiting rankings and things like that. But talking about that recruiting now starting to kick in there to that level that you would like, getting those athletes there that you mentioned, and like a Jenna Young, for example, which we'll talk about shortly. But now these are the freshman classes I know you've been excited about.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch these young players and the talent that we're getting every year. It's tough when you've got a new program, you're starting to build a program. It's tough to get the top kids in right away because you don't have that body of work, as they always say. You don't have that championship behind your belt. So to bring kids in that are going to take us there and understand that they are going to be a legacy with our sport, they're going to come in and be the foundation of what this program will be in the future. We've seen that with the freshmen coming in, and I'm excited about what the new freshmen coming in this year is going to bring, because I think every year we've done a great job of just continuing to build on the strength of our program, the skill level of our athletes we're bringing in, and I think you're going to see another very young team again this year. I think our sophomores and our new freshmen this year will be locking down a lot of our positions again.
Let's talk about the pitching staff. How is that, Carl, and getting to know the pitchers getting to know him? How has that gone? And then you've got a lot of arms. A lot of arms got experience last year, which returns. But you also have some new faces there as well with some of the talent there, freshmen. So how is all that mixed in?
Yeah, it's been fun to bring Carl in. He's had so much experience in the national level with Australia and New Zealand. He's basically has come in and he has the level of expertise as a player and then also as a coach, because he's been working with the New Zealand national level for 20 plus years. And Ole Miss had the right idea when they brought him in last year and got him as a pitching coach. He really was able to develop a lot of those kids down there. And for us to be able to bring him back to Iowa, him living in Iowa is a big factor of us being able to get him back home. But for him to be able to come in and start working with some of those young pitchers, you're seeing a lot of development in them that we haven't seen in the past. The kids are really buying into it. He's a player's coach. He understands how to connect with them. He understands how to motivate them and get them on the level that he needs to be able to compete. He understands that, and he's done a great job this fall on getting them buy-in, but also you're seeing a great deal of improvement even now before the season even begins. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have him. I think he's going to do an incredible job this year, not just with pitchers, but also pitch calling, being able to understand the game. He brings a lot with him, the data analytics behind it. He's bringing a lot of skill work with him.
Talk about the pitching staff and what you've seen from each individual and what you expect them to how they contribute. Like I mentioned, you got some experience coming back, but you also have some nice fresh faces, arms there, deep arms. How do each have come and looked?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you go back last year, we really were hurt a lot in the pitching staff only because of injuries, and we have a lot of pitchers that are still in the rehab portion of their training right now that we're seeing them getting stronger and stronger. So I mean, you look at Jalen, that she was probably our number one as a sophomore last year, really holding down a lot of the games. Very very strong kid on the mound, very disciplined. She wants to win. She wants to take the team on her back and go after it. And she's coming back, and you can see great development in her right now. Like even understanding a little bit more of her game. She's locking in on what she's expected to do as a junior. She's now one of our leaders on the team, one of our captains. So she's got that responsibility, but also understanding what that means. And I think she's ready to carry that on her back and run with it. And then Devin Greer, had some injuries last year. She was out for a portion of the season last year. She's back healthy, doing a great job, hungry. She really wants to come back and prove herself. I think she's had some injuries the last 2 years that have kept her out of quite a few games. And I think she's more determined now coming back, being able to step up and do her job. And especially as a senior, I think she's really hungry for that position to be locked down. She wants that number one spot, and I love them, working together and fighting together to be able to find those number ones. I think Ojo, she's in the rehab portion right now. Jaylee, she's one of our hard throwers. She's one that can really step in and make a difference maker in a game. She's throwing in the high 60s right now, and she's, like I said, rehabbing. But I think everything we've seen in the rehab looks really good. I think she'll be back and ready to go in January. And then Haley, I think you saw Haley a little bit last year, another senior. She didn't pitch her first 2 years, it was interesting. She wanted to come back last year and throw a little bit. She had some good games for us last year. I think you'll see her a little bit on the middle of the pack. You'll probably see her coming in for 2 or 3 innings here or there throughout the season. But as a senior, she's ready to contribute. She's hungry to come in and start making things happen. And then of course you got some of the young ones. You've got who else do I have in there? Oh, they hate
Got some
players.
freshmen and sophomores there ready to step in there.
Yeah, yeah. So the freshmen that are coming in, so Talia, she's going to be a fun one to watch. Coming in from California, and Sophia also coming in from California. I think those two have some arms that will be a little bit different than what we had last year. It'll be a different look on both of them. Again, I think as a freshman, I think you're going to see a couple games on each one of those arms. Looking forward to seeing what they come in. Maya was the other one I was thinking of. So Maya was injured a little bit last year too. Coming in strong this year. More of a down pitcher. She's going to be able to get some outs for us also. But it's a great staff. Andy did see a lot of games last year. She was a young freshman last year. She came in for a few of the games, but seeing what she's doing in the bullpen has been really exciting. And she's hungry just like the other kids are. So I think with the staff, 8 seems like a lot of pitchers, but I think with the way that our program's going now and the number of pitchers that you have to have a staff. And 5 games on a weekend for the early part of the season, and then 3 games for conference. You need those arms to be able to come in and show a little bit different look each time. So I think they're going to be complementing each other this year.
Offensively, even defensively, Jenna Young, who you mentioned, first team All
Yeah.
Big Ten, was all freshman, hit 373, 4 homers, 18 RBIs. Immediate impact from her. What did you see in her that you thought that you envisioned this big of an impact that she would make in her first year?
Well, that young lady I've been watching for the last 6 years. So I kind of knew from her eighth grade year in school that she was going to be something special. And she definitely was. She did have an injury her senior year, kind of slowed her a little bit to come back, to start off with us in the fall, but came out with gangbusters last year as a freshman. And like you said, those stats alone just speak for themselves. She looks as a leadoff position, if not probably number 3 spot. She has power in her bat, good speed on the bases. She's just an all-around great athlete.
I would say so. And she played at second base. There. Tell me
Mhm.
about the rest of the info. You referred to it earlier. Young, but a lot of upside there.
Yeah, with Jana, she can play short or second. We felt like she was able to cover a lot more ground at second base and did a lot of great things for us in that position. Sujin Berry, that's out of California, she kind of played a little bit third base the start of the season, then kind of locked down the shortstop position. Again, she's looking good there. She's improving her range, she's doing a great job improving her arm. You'll probably see a little bit more of her there. Devin Bowman, she's first and third. She's such a utility player. We can play her. We could even catch her behind the plate if we needed to. She's such a versatile player. She kind of locked down third base for a while in the early part of the season, then came over to first base, kind of worked out behind Sammy a little bit last year. She's got a great hands at first base, does a great job. Just she's not the height that you want at first base, but she's got the skills to be a first baseman. But she played a lot of third too, along with Avery at third. I think those two are going to really lock down those two positions. And freshman coming in, Johnson, you keep an eye on her. She's going to be a kid that ends up playing a lot of different positions. Bree Johnson, she's playing first base majority, so has a great hands at first base. She's been playing a little third base also during this fall season, but keep an eye on her. I think she's going to be one that will surprise a few people and will be locking down a position this coming year too.
Freshman out of Sacramento, California.
Yeah, yeah, she's a fun one. Yeah, keep an eye on her. Her dad played pro ball, so I think she learned a few tricks from her dad. Yeah.
Always good.
Um,
Always
yeah,
good to have that.
and that's pretty much for the infield. The outfield is kind of up for grabs right now. So you saw Tori a little bit at shortstop last year and played a little second base. Finished a little bit in the outfield, and she actually played this summer for a women's league playing outfield so she could learn the position a little bit more. And she did an incredible job in the outfield this last fall. So be looking for her to kind of fill in some holes in the outfield. But then you've got let me try to think who we
We
have
got
there.
Riley
I
Moss.
think, yeah.
Let's already
Right?
ask about Riley, who hit 390 last year with second team All Big Ten. Really exploded there on the scene there. She's going to be a
Yeah.
part of that offense and somewhere in that outfield position.
Yeah, she's was injured also, had is working through rehab, so we haven't seen her out there, but she will be a force. She'll be ready to go in the spring. And that's what we're so excited about. I mean, you were talking about injuries and how hard it was last year on how we finished, but these kids are coming back stronger. Our rehab is working. They're looking great right now, and having them be able to come in the spring and be ready to go, it's going to be a shot in the arm for us. And we're looking for them. Then they're hungry. You know, I think most kids when they get injured and they're like, this isn't happening, and they rehab end up being better than they were before they rehab. You just see that kind of fire in them, and I think that's what you're going to see in a lot of our players coming back this year.
Yeah, and again, I remember we talked last year, but you got hit. You said probably the most injuries you've had
I know.
in your coaching career. Where it seemed like every week you're checking who's actually available to practice, right?
It was. It was. But you just keep finding who wants to step up, and our kids did a great job last year of stepping up and doing everything they could to keep us moving forward. And I was so proud of how they came out last year and finished. And like I said, they're hungry to prove themselves, being a healthy team and being able to go into it. Yeah, I think we talked to a lot of the coaches across the country. We're talking about when we're talking about roster sizes and what's going to happen coming up. And we all talk about we want smaller roster sizes, but with the number of injuries every team had last year, it was like you can't afford to have too small of a team. And that was one of the discussions we had as coaches, is like how many is the perfect number to be able to still be able to handle the injuries that we had.
With so many pitchers, the catching position is a key position just from a handling the pitching staff. How do you see the catching situation as far as that relationship with your pitchers? Do you envision certain catchers being assigned to certain pitchers, or is it one of those things, hey, you're catching whoever?
Yeah, we actually train them to catch whoever. We
Okay.
want them. We have them in the bullpen with every pitcher throughout the fall. We want them to know what their best stuff is. We want them to know how to handle them if things go awry. To be able to call the timeout and slow them down and get them refocused. So all of our catchers catch all of our pitchers. It's not a one-on-one. Now, we got someone like Desi coming in. Desi came in as a transfer last year. She wasn't able to play for us or with us in the fall because of the mid-year transfer. But she's now ready to go this spring, and she's been doing great things the fall for us. She's the one that you'll want to see behind the plate. And then we have a transfer that came in. Um, she's actually from Australia. She did a great job of coming in and kind of locking down, because we had a couple of players. I'm looking on the list here. We had a couple of players that we struggled with to um, as far as catching. Echo was behind the plate a little bit. Hannah was a little behind the plate a little bit last year, and felt like we just needed another arm, somebody else to come in. So Bianca is from Australia that came in and was able to this fall and has been doing some really good stuff for us. So I would say between those kids, I mean, um, probably Desi and Bianca would probably be the two that you'd be looking at. Hannah's strong behind the plate. She's got a good bat. Keep an eye on her. But I think catching is finally, we had a struggle last year on just finding somebody
Sure,
that
consistency.
one
Yeah.
wasn't injured, but two was able to get the job done and play as many games as we needed. And you definitely need two catchers behind the plate because one, it's a lot of asking for them to play 56 games in a year.
Well, and that's why I asked, because I mean that impacts the pitching staff and their performance as well as having that camaraderie and that consistency behind the plate.
Yeah.
People kind of forget that sometimes. You mentioned the outfield's kind of wide open right now. Is that where you see? Because last year with all the injuries, that allowed some of the freshmen like Young, to kind of get that opportunity and blossom to that opportunity, like a Jim Barry and Bowman and all that. Is that where you see the outfield there is kind of perhaps there is wide open where you might see some of the freshmen there as well?
Yeah, I think you will. I mean, you have the players that are kind of stepping up right now and locking down positions. Bree's an example of that. She's a great first baseman, but if Bowman ends up locking down first base, she may be moved to the outfield. You know how it works. It's just if you hit, you're going to find a spot. So, whoever we have stepping up, Tori was an example of that. You talk about Devin Simon kind of locked down that position a little bit with the injuries last year. She's been lighting it up this fall too. Her and Tori's been looking really good in the outfield. And then Tatiana, you saw her in center field last year. She's coming back strong again. Um, Echo in the outfield, seeing her again. A lot of these kids had injuries, so a lot of them are rehabbing back from that, but. It's going to all depend on who hits, and fortunately or unfortunately, usually the outfield is where you can put a couple players if you need to, if they're good hitters, and we need to
Sure.
add a little more offense to our lineup. But it's just to me, it's a great group of young ladies this year. They're really working hard. A freshman you want to keep an eye on too would probably be Arlette. She's a kid out of Florida. She's one that is coming in, doing a great job in the outfield, has a good stick, doing all the little things right. She's not a kid that's coming in and blowing people away, but she just gets everything done that she needs to get done. Strong arm in the outfield, good range, good speed, puts a ball in play, does all the little things right. So you want to look at Caravaca as a possibility in the outfield also.
A lot of competition, which
Love it.
that's what you
Don't you
want,
love it? Yeah.
right? That's the whole
Yeah.
game, the game.
Yeah, you love it. We haven't even talked about Anna. She's been out in the fall too. And here you look at Tori and Anna were our middle infielders 2 years ago.
Wow.
Tori's in the outfield. Anna's working on injury situation, but she's got speed. She's got a bat. She could be one you look at for the outfield too. So I think there's just so many possibilities across the board. Jaden Sellers is a kid out of Iowa that won the state track meet this last year as a freshman. You're going to see her on the bases. She's got an unbelievable speed, but she's also one of our fastest outfielders. So I think you're going to see a little bit from a lot of the freshmen that are coming in that you may not have heard of, but I think they're going to be surprising a few people this year.
What do you think the identity will be? What do you want it to be uh, when it gets
You
on the
know,
field?
yeah, I think for us, it's always just the grit of our team, wanting to be on the field, never giving up, just being competitive in every at bat. And we talk about that a lot. It's like coaches talk about it all the time. You only have the moment. You have that moment of that at bat, that moment. And it's like we want to emphasize our players to realize how big that moment can be throughout the game. That it's not the wins and losses, but it's like, are we doing our best we can in those moments that we're being given? And so we're looking at that at our kids, just fight for every moment, fight for every pitch, fight for everything that you do. And I think we have that kind of fight. I think we're the team that we're expected to be.
Of course, Big Ten, lots of big story this year. Of course, with the additions of UCLA, you got Washington, you got Oregon. You're hosting UCLA early. I think it's one of the first weekends of the Big Ten, if not the opener. Um, it's here now. We've talked about it for a couple of years. Now it's reality. We've seen it with the fall sports. Has it hit everybody? What is the coaches? What has that been like? Getting Kelly I on the coaches meetings. You got Heather Tarr. You got Coach Lombardi. I mean, it's unique. But the expectations are through the roof for the conference this year as a result, from a competition standpoint, from an NCAA tournament possibilities. I mean, it's endless for the Big Ten this year.
It is. I mean, they bringing Washington, Oregon, and UCLA into softball was huge for the Big Ten. You're looking at just high quality games now that we can see across the board in the Big Ten. So no matter who you play, you're gonna have that RPI, that strength of schedule that we've been needing for the Big Ten. And we're excited about UCLA because we do the second weekend in the Big Ten schedule. We have them at home for a doubleheader. We're at Indiana the first weekend, and then UCLA at home. And I think it'll be shock. I think we joke all the time, and with these coaches, like you're not ready, you're not prepared yet to be cold in Iowa or cold in Indiana or cold in Michigan. It's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be a different travel for them because it's not the type of travel that they're used to. So there'll be a lot of I think there's gonna be a lot of changes that'll happen after this year once everybody gets a chance to see what the schedule looks like. The schedule's a little crazy this year. I think we've had a few teams are going down to play in tournaments the first couple of weekends of the season, and other teams are doing double headers, and few teams have weeks off, others don't. Like we'll have two double headers instead of a weekend off. So it's a little bit crazy schedule. We'll see how that works. And I think after this year, you'll probably see quite a few changes on who plays who and why.
But what's so cool about it, and certainly travel's been discussed at length and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But I remember talking to Illinois Associate Head Coach Laura Trout, and he said, the cool thing about this is the student athletes, they get to see new experiences that they haven't before, whether they travel out west or, like, for example, UCLA coming to Iowa. As an Iowa softball fan in that state, which is such a passionate softball state, you never would have imagined having UCLA come to Iowa to play. They get this opportunity. It's probably going to be one of the hottest tickets in the history of the program, because that Iowa fans are going to want to get that ticket. So that is the uniqueness, excitement of it. With these additions, is the new. It feels like a fresh carpet, if you will, added to it, and some new opportunities that you would never imagine present itself.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like being able to get TV coverage with these big games. You want that to be covered. You want these softball players across the country to see these kind of matchups. And I think the Big 12 or the Big 10 trying to do a big thing. I think the SEC, the Big 12, and the Big Ten are all trying to find ways of getting us on TV more. So you're going to see, like, the SEC has a Saturday, Sunday, Monday schedule. We talked about a few games that you talked about, like even in the Big 12 is going to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that you can get Monday and Thursday as days that are kind of not as busy to be able to cover some of our games. And I think that's the route that we're trying to take, is get more coverage. We've had a few games that we've talked about as moving into a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, even in our schedule. I think we're looking
Cool.
at state as a possibility for a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you're going to see a little bit of that, of trying to work the schedule a little bit more so that we can get more coverage across the conference.
That would make a ton of sense, especially with the Big Ten network. We've seen that being successful on the volleyball end for
Mhm.
them on the network. I think there's no reason why you can't do that on the softball side with some of the potential matchups. Again, a league that they got 4 teams in last year with Northwestern, Michigan, Indiana, Penn State. Now you add UCLA, Washington, Oregon. The possibilities are endless for everybody in the league, and it could create some excitement through across the top to bottom for the league. Maybe the most anticipated. Some people have told me within the league the most anticipated Big Ten softball season in recent memory.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, you saw the schedules as crazy it was back in the early 90s, 2000, even when Gil Blevins was here and
Yeah,
the Big Ten, they hosted some big teams here at Iowa even back then, but you haven't seen that since. So it's going to be exciting to see, you're going to pack the stands. We're going to have to bring in new bleachers for UCLA to come into town. I just hope that it's warm weather and not
true.
snowing.
Is there going to be room for me or Victor to go up there? I mean, are we going to be
Hey,
left
we got to
out?
work it out somehow. I
Oh
mean, you've been with
boy.
me 19 years. We got to work this out somehow.
think that helps me getting in or something. I don't know.
Just a little, yeah.
Well, you're going to start off in a tournament that is probably going to be one of the most anticipated NFCA Leadoff Classic in recent memory, opening weekend in Clearwater, an incredible field that you are a part of, and you're not even ducking people. You're playing Tennessee opening weekend,
Yeah.
Texas Tech, who your alma mater. I don't know if you the former, not alma mater. You coached at Texas Tech. I don't know what the lingo is, but your former one of
Yeah.
their former place at Lubbock. They've got this player now, Kennedy. They were
I
able
don't,
to get.
yeah. No, no worries.
Yeah, right.
Jody Ball, Kennedy, doesn't matter. Take them all
Yeah,
on.
I mean it's a who's who tournament. Talk about that opening weekend because you do like to challenge your teams from a scheduling standpoint. We won't get into the rest of the schedule because it's not
Yeah.
public yet, but I do know that you are definitely got a very stiff schedule, and it starts with a premier tournament in Clearwater.
Yeah, we went to that tournament last year and just really enjoyed the way they set it up and being able to see the better competition across the country early on. It kind of gives us a measuring stick, see where we need to be and what we need to improve on as the season goes on. So yeah, we're opening up with Kennesaw. We've got Tennessee, then I think we have Marshall, then Mississippi State, and then we finish with Texas Tech on that Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be good to kind of measure up to see where we are. The NFCA always does a great job with that tournament, and I think being able to get into that early on and get us a chance to see is going to be huge for our program.
Yeah, I mean, you might see two of the best pitchers in the country, Carlin
Yeah.
Pickens at Tennessee, but that's what you sell your players on, right? Like you come to Iowa, you're going to play the very best, not just in the conference, but you're going to play the very best across the country, wherever you play. Doesn't matter whether it's Florida or wherever. You're going to be playing some of the very best teams in the country, and that's part of the pitch to bring players there.
Well, I think any program you go into, that's what the players want. I don't think anyone goes into Division I thinking that they do just want to play ball. I think they go in saying they want to play the best. They watch them as little girls, watch the World Series as little girls, and they said, okay, when I get there, this is what I'm going to do. You visualize yourself being there, and I think every player wants that. It's a matter of, are you working hard enough to be one of those top players, one of those top programs in the country, and because everybody wants it. You ask anybody, they want to be in the World Series, they want to be top 10 in the country, top 8 in the country, and I think it's just a matter of who's going to put in the time and the energy to get your team there. So
Plus the players that are doing the weights. That's a good reminder, right? Like, ooh, you got
yeah.
Tennessee, Texas Tech. You got, that's a good reminder. Mississippi State, like, okay, this is what we're working for towards there's that light there that I would imagine is motivating to those players that probably are lifting weights that can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be on your wall, right? You go, have you lifted hard enough to play this team this year? Have
Yes.
you, are you working and running hard enough to be on that same field? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a pretty marquee tournament. I'm curious, obviously now at University of Iowa, of course, they're usually at this time of year be talking about Caitlin Clark.
Hmm.
This will be the first year post Caitlin Clark at Iowa, although I'm sure everybody's still following her what she did at the pros there at the WNBA. What's
Yeah.
it like on campus now post Caitlin Clark there? I mean, is it weird? Like, I mean, what's it having gone through that the last handful of years there, seeing the show that was Caitlin Clark? I know you got to go to a lot of those games, and
Yeah.
now she's doing her thing in the pros there in the WNBA.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever post Caitlin Clark here.
Okay,
She, yeah, it'll always be
it's
forever Caitlin Clark here. But she came back last weekend. They did honor the basketball team, the women's basketball team at the football game last year. It was homecoming last weekend. So it was really neat to see her out there with her team again. And she brought so much to this university, so much to women across the country. And I don't think you ever see that post feeling. I know that they're going to do a great job this year in basketball. I know they're not, um, in their minds, they're not going to be as focused as this is where we're going to be this year, like they did the last 2 years of being in the final game of the year, to be in the championship game of the season. But I know that the coaches are going to do a great job with this program. I feel like a little bit of it like being Lou Holtz, it's like, I don't know how much we got. I don't know if we're very good or not. And then they end up winning championships every year. So I think that's kind of what you're seeing around Iowa. I think the players are all still intact. I think the program is still strong. Even post Caitlin Clark, I think you're going to see great things from our women's basketball program. But Caitlin definitely put us on the map, and she will forever be Iowa, and that'll never change. That feeling will always be here at Iowa.
Is she inspiration? I would imagine to the women athletes there, and your softball
Mm.
players included, just because of what she's accomplished, how much attention she's brought to women's basketball, basketball in general, women's sports. I would imagine if I was an Iowa female athlete, that's inspiring. That hey, if she could do that, I could do that. Did you sense that too?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know that they feel that, especially her being from Iowa, that our Iowa girls have that special connection with her, like that special, hey, I was pretty good. The state itself brings out great athletes, and I think you see that across the board. But I tell you what, our kids get a kick out of is when they stand on that number 22 on the basketball court, and they see how far from the basket it really is, and they think to themselves, how did she make the shot? I'm like, think of the thousands of shots that she took from that spot just to hit that one spot when she needed to in a game. And that you put that back into inspiration for your players is like you just keep going and working on your range in the middle infielder and range in the outfield so that you have that one ball over the fence that you catch and bring back to win the game, or you have that ball behind shortstop that you can take to first base and get that out. I mean, you practice every day thinking of Caitlin Clark and the thousands and thousands and thousands of shots she took from that one spot. So when it came to time to do it, she did it. So it does motivate them to do their sport and do the best of their ability in that sport.
We're going out to a first pitch. Has she done a first pitch at Iowa
She
softball?
has.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? She did. How'd she throw?
Yep. Yep. Actually pretty good. Yeah. She threw a strike. Yeah, it was fun to watch.
That's good. I'm glad you
And
did
then
that.
of course she's in the stands and we had to put her in the press box because she has so many people asking for autographs.
Oh, you got to get like it
Yeah,
remind.
she
Oh
needs
my
her own
goodness,
security system out there.
that reminds me. A few years ago, I'm in Clearwater, and Kat Osterman's there, and I want to
Yeah.
say hi to her. The problem is, as I try to say hi to her, a lot of kids there wanted to say hi to her and get her autograph, so I never got to say hi to her because there were so many people there. So we just kind of waved. I'm like, all right, we'll figure we'll catch you another time. It's
Yeah.
my goodness, that is.
Yeah, we were impressed like with Monica Abbott. We were out at the Palm Springs tournament several few years back,
Yeah.
and she was out there and she talked to our team. I mean, I talk about class act. She
Yes.
she came over and yeah, I asked if you'd say a few words to the team, and she spent 20 minutes with them. I tell you what, when you have, and Caitlin does the same thing. When you have student athletes that understand the importance of giving back, there's nothing better in this world.
That's tremendous. She's been a great representation there. Last question before we let you go. What are a couple questions, couple keys you're looking forward to finding out about this group once it gets back on the field, once you start playing in Clearwater, for example, in the NFCA, that you think could be a key to the season?
A few questions that I'm looking to find from
Yeah,
this
you
team.
want to find out. Yeah, there's always, because there's always some questions
Yeah.
you have about each team that you don't know until you play somebody else for real, right? Like you find out that first, might be the first weekend, maybe it takes you a few weeks to figure it out. But a couple things that you think could be key questions that could kind of help determine where the season goes.
Yeah, well, I think if you know me over the last 30 years of coaching, it's always for me, it's always been defense. I want to make sure that our defense is always solid, that we have the right people in place. And you saw last year how we made quite a few changes even after our first couple tournaments. So it's being able to find the right fit so that our defense is competitive no matter who we play. And then offensively, I'd say, you know, we have some big sticks. I've never been a big bopper kind of team. I believe in having that kind of diversity in the lineup. I want to have those fast kids. I want to have those slappers get on, moving around. I want those singles hitters to be able to hit behind our runners, being able to move them. And then you've got those power hitters that their job is just to bring them in. So I want to see that that's a balanced lineup, that we have that versatility in our lineup that can give us that. To me, yeah, one big swing can change the course of the game, but are we doing the little things to help our teammates out? Are we finding ways of getting on? Are we advancing our teammates when we have opportunity to? Are we producing when we need to score that run from second base? We struggled with that last year. We struggled with several times bases loaded and not getting that clutch hit. And that's the one thing I want to see this year is that our players are a little bit tougher. I don't want to say tough minded, but having higher expectations of getting the job done when the job is called upon them to do it. It doesn't have to be a home run to win games. So if we can see those two things, one offense, one defense, and that we have the right kids in place, I think that's what we're looking for the first couple of weekends.
Should be exciting. We back in Clearwater started all off in the NFCA Leadoff Classic there. Should be a lot of fun. That is head coach Renee Gillispie joining us here on In the Circle D1 Softball. I haven't known you for 30 years. I'm close. 18. Does that count? Is that
Yeah,
close enough?
yeah. Almost half of the time I've been coaching. Pretty close.
Very good. Very fair. Always great to catch up with you in our yearly tradition here, Coach. Always appreciate it, and good luck. We'll be in touch. But thanks for always taking the time and everything you've done for us and for the show here on In the Circle and D1 Softball.
Well, thank you, Eric, and thank you for supporting the women's softball as much as you have. You've done so many great things for so many coaches across the country and programs across the country. Just keep it up because we appreciate what you do.